Okay, good morning, directors. I'm pleased to call this meeting to order. My name is Jake Martins. I'm the General Manager of Corporate Services and the Deputy Corporate Legislative Officer for the Comox Valley Regional District. I'm calling this meeting to order as the inaugural meeting of the Black Creek Oyster Bay Services Committee, and the first order of business at all of our inaugural meetings is, of course, the election of the chair and vice chair. I think the directors are fairly familiar with the process for the election, so I will forego the detailed instructions unless there's any request for them or questions regarding it. The basic process is to call for nominations, and any director may nominate another director. And then I will ask that director or directors if they will let their name to stand. If there's more than one director nominated, we will then proceed with an election. So are there any questions before we get underway from the directors or staff? Seeing none. Okay. Well, with that, then I will call for nominations for the position of chair first. Calling a first time. Oh. Thank you. Director Rice is nominating Director Grieve. I'll call a second time for any nominations of chair, and a third and final time. And with that, Director Grieve, do you allow your name to stand for the position of chair?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Then I'm pleased to announce you acclaimed as the chair for the Black Creek Oyster Bay Services Committee for 2023. And with that, we will we'll proceed with the vice chair election as well. So same process. And I'll start by calling for nominations for the position of vice chair. Director Grieve.
I nominate Director Rice.
Rice, thank you. And I'll call a second time and a third and final time. And Director Rice, do you allow your name to stand?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Then I'm pleased to announce you acclaimed as the vice chair for the Black Creek Oyster Bay Services Committee. Thank you very much, directors. That concludes the election for the chair and vice chair positions. And with that, I will turn it over to Chair Grieve to get this meeting underway.
Thank you very much. We don't have anyone in the gallery, so I don't need to point out where the washrooms or the emergency exits are. I would like to acknowledge the fact that we are doing our business today on the traditional unceded territory of the Comox First Nations. Next thing is the moving right along, number D, public input to the financial plan. Staff will provide a public input with a summary of the public input received regarding the 2023 to 2027 proposed financial plan.
Thank you, Chair and Director. And through the budget process, in the event that we do receive any correspondence, it will be circulated to you and provided. This is the first of a series of presentations today on the financial plan, so we have none at this time, but I encourage any members of the public, whether they wish to be a delegation or provide written input, our website is there, and information as to how to contact us. We are open to that. And also just to advise the directors and encourage your citizens that we are holding a workshop on February the 7th during the noontime period to talk about the financial plan and the process and how to read financial statements of the regional district. So very helpful, and encourage any citizens that have questions to either attend that. It will be available online, or to contact us and ask any questions. So with that, Mr. Chair, we move on to other matters on the agenda.
Thank you very much. So we're going to go right on to reports. First report is the Black Creek Oyster Bay Fire Protection Service Area Amendment Report, January 6th for receipt. And seconded. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair and Director. And Bruce Green, Fire Chief, is here to present this budget, to answer any of your questions and provide context to our recommendation.
Okay, thank you through the CEO to the chair and the directors of the committee. So we'll give you a brief overview of our financial plan for the 2023 to 2027. Next slide, please. So the Black Creek Oyster Bay Fire Services area, the directors is provided by the way of a fire chief that is an employee of the regional district and
Sorry, I mean, added to this, but the first item is actually service.
that's what I thought.
Welcome.
Okay, this is CEO to the chair and the committee. Last year we did a budget or a boundary amendment to include some properties in area D that were not in the fire protection area, and 4185 Chantrell Way was one of those properties. We sent a letter to the owner, and the owner at that time chose not to come into the fire protection area. Since that we did that amendment, the property has sold and the current owners have requested to come into the fire protection area. So this is just to try and include them in the fire protection area. That whole, all of Chantrell Way is in the fire protection area except those two properties that the one owner owns. So it's surrounded by where we're providing fire protection anyway. So it just makes sense for me and easier for us as well to figure out if it is or isn't to send resources up there.
Any questions?
No, I don't have any questions, and I don't see any reason why this shouldn't proceed.
Well, just the insurance alone would make sense. Very good. So, any further comments, questions? Then we'll take the vote on receipt. All those in favor of receipt, and that carries. Now there's a recommendation. If somebody'd like to move that, I'll second it. That the board consider 3 readings subsequent to bylaws 735. And any questions or further comments? Seeing none, we'll go right to the recommendation. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. And we have now for our entertainment, Kevin DeVille, Manager of Financial Planning, the 2023 to 2027 proposed financial plan for receipt. You can say second. Over to Kevin.
Thank you very much. Through the chair to the directors, good morning. So yes, I just have a short kind of overview of the 2023-2027 financial planning process. And then I will speak to the dashboard that you're seeing in front of you there just quickly, and then certainly welcome any questions. Lisa, do you have the PowerPoint? Great, thank you. So yes, we're now officially underway with the 2023-27 financial planning process. As noted there, the financial plan is now posted online for the proposed budget. So folks can go to that link provided on the slide there, www.comoxvalleyrd.ca/current budget, and find all sorts of information on our current proposed financial plan, and also with respect to the ways public can get engaged in this process, including the upcoming February 7th session that our CAO mentioned previously. Of course, as part of this process, we are at the proposed budget stage. So over the next 7 weeks, we will be rolling out our various individual service budgets to the various committees, commissions, and to the board. And certainly we'll be coalescing all of the feedback and direction we receive at that time. What we will then do along with that, as we move forward towards our recommended budget stage, is include any 2022 carry forwards of work plan items, surpluses, etc. Anything that is kind of confirmed as part of the completion of our annual year-end process. At that time, we would also include any updated info on grant approvals and/or statuses where those become available. And just as a reminder, budget staff reports do look a little different again this year. We've added some additional kind of information for the board's consideration, including the corporate energy and emissions plan reporting, and specifically how each of those service budgets will be working towards meeting the objectives and the goals that the board has set out in that corporate energy and emissions plan. As you saw on the dashboard, there are a number of budgets that we'll be going through over the next several weeks. So we, kind of color code that particular dashboard just so you have a sense of, what will be either being discussed at a current meeting today or what will be coming forward in subsequent meetings. So just a reminder for this particular committee that we will be meeting and discussing the fire services budget for the Black Creek Oyster Bay Fire Service today. At the upcoming meeting on February 13th, we will be bringing forward the water services budget for your consideration. And then lastly, this was something we had presented during our consolidated present. Thanks, Liz. This was a slide we had presented to you as part of our consolidated presentation to the board last Tuesday. So just wanted to give a reminder to the electoral areas. Here's the number of services that each of the areas participates in fully. As I noted at that time for electoral area A specifically, this does not include those additional components such as Part A, Bain Sound, and of course, Denman and Horby Islands. They pay into other services separately, but this will give you a sense of the requisition amounts, the tax requisitions for 2023 year-over-year change versus the 2022 amounts. And we'll be speaking to each of these as we go through the individual budget presentations. And then that's all I have to kind of get the process kicked off. I'll certainly welcome any questions.
All those questions when it comes to money. Director Rice?
No, I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, a couple of things. I don't know, looking at now this is maybe not the forum to discuss it because it's more area C, more area EASC, I guess, but considering the rate of inflation, which is somewhere around 6 to 7%, I think, in our area, rough and ready. Are we basically trying to keep our increases to that amount? Or are we still playing catch up from the COVID tax holiday?
Yeah, I mean, certainly with respect to when we're comparing 2022 to 2023, we do have to keep in mind that we were still at some COVID type levels as part of our COVID renewal and response plan. We did for 2021 and 2022 curtail some activity and some requisitions. In fact, in 2021, we actually rolled back some requisitions. So we are starting to move forward more with full service delivery now. And yes, certainly inflation is having a role within a lot of our costing. So that's something we're definitely keeping in mind. We have certainly asked that each budget manager speak to the various changes within their individual budgets, particularly if it's affecting requisitions, and really be able to provide you fulsome information as to what's really driving those changes or those increases.
So as they say, I think the former mayor of Campbell River, Mayor Andy, said one time that tax holidays don't work because you always have to get them back. And I guess even tax long weekends are a bit of a challenge in this case. The other question, pardon me, this is something I forwarded, I think, to the financial department, but one of the queries of one of my residents was around why are electoral areas always putting money into reserves? And I wonder if you could speak briefly to that, because a lot of people that come from a municipal background don't fully understand how that all services and have their own tax requisition, their own bylaws, and their own reserves, because of the fact that we don't have a big slush fund. Everything pretty well stays in that service. Maybe you could just speak to that briefly.
Absolutely, through the chair. So yes, that's a very good point. I mean, we do obviously stress that as regional districts, each of our services has to stand alone and be able to fully support itself. And that's why a number of our service areas do maintain one or more different reserves within that particular service. Many of those reserves are designed to be what we call future expenditure reserves. So those help support or offset some maybe unplanned or kind of emergency type of expenditures that may come up from time to time. So we certainly look at a optimal level for what needs to be in those reserves to support those kinds of things. We also do maintain in several of those services capital works reserves, and that's really what helps support the various capital works that go on in each of our services. So we kind of look at funding those to ensure that if we have capital works coming down the line over the next 10 years, that we are starting to put appropriate dollars away to support that. We always look at, how we're funding those various capital works. Reserves is one component of that mix. That could also include things like debt. It could also include if opportunities arise, federal or provincial grants and those kinds of things. So it's part of a prudent financial approach to assure that we're putting dollars away for those future works.
Yeah, I think it's always important to emphasize the fact that any tax requisition is paid by the people who receive the service or function, and that none of that money goes into any other silo except the one that you paid your taxes in. So all your money stays in the service. It doesn't disappear somewhere.
Correct.
Through the sieve, like some other forms of government. Okay, very good. Thank you for making that clear, because I think it's important that people are reminded of the way that electoral areas work, which is quite different. Director Rice.
Just one question that I had on your one slide there, you were just showing A, B, and C.
Correct.
Am I going to see figures for area D?
We can certainly do that. Yeah, we did present that to the CVRD board, but more than happy to share with you the area D perspective.
Would love to see those numbers. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions or comments. So we're just on receipt and call a question. All those in favor of receipt? That carries. Now moving along, number 3, the 2023-2027 financial plan for the Black Creek Oyster Bay Fire Protection Service, function number 230. And back over to Chief Green.
We'll try this again. Through the CEO to the chair and the directors, this is the overview of our requests for the 2023-2027 budget. So go ahead, Lisa. I have more faith in you than this. We'll find out. So the services are provided by the CBRD in the way of a fire chief that runs all the fire halls, and all the firefighters are paid on call or volunteers. The fire department has responded to the corporate energy and emissions plan by switching to battery operated equipment and looking at electric vehicles where possible and economical. And I speak to that because we're looking at engines, and to get an engine that's electric, it's at least a $1 million increase over a current price of an engine. Some of the reasons that the fire service going up is the required training that we're have to do. The cost of fuel is escalating rapidly. Firefighter honorarium and inflation rates are a large part of our increases. One of the issues that we're running into in the Black Creek Oyster Bay area is there's currently 3-story buildings that are being built, and under FUS, Fire Under Air Survey, there's a requirement to have a ladder truck when you have 5 3-story structures in the area, and we're pushing that now. So we're due to replace an engine in 2024. So we're looking at ways that we can push that back to figure out better ways to fund the ladder truck if there becomes a need. And the financial plans are based on fire department budget submissions and CBRD costs. So in 2022, Oyster River Fire Department responded to 522 events. That is broken up. There is some of those events that are for Merville and Mount Washington, but that's part of what we're looking after. The members put in over 11,000 hours in training and responding. We ran a successful recruitment drive. We have 10 new members that are currently undergoing training for the 3 areas that we serve. And we ran a successful chipper program through the CRI grant. So the work plans that we have, our SCBA are aging out, and it's costing quite a bit to maintain them. So we're looking at replacing all of our SCBAs. We're looking at creating a mobile air trailer for filling SCBAs, self-contained breathing apparatus, on the scene, so we don't have to transport bottles back and forth. And we're continuously looking at replacing our gas tools with battery equipment. And like I said in the earlier one, we're working on a plan for replacement of engine 42, which expires in 2024. So where we are from 2022 to 2023, the residential tax rate is proposed to be 45 cents per thousand, and last year was 44 cents per thousand. A house valued at $800,000 will be paying approximately $363 for fire protection. The tax requisition is $850,000, which is an increase of $75,000 from last year. Like I said in the previous slides, inflation, fuel prices, and paid on call firefighters. And when I say paid on call, the firefighters get paid for when they're training and call. And this year in our area, the firefighters ended up donating $40,000 of their time because we didn't have enough money in the budget to pay for them. So there's some of that increase in there. Personnel costs is $298,000, which is an increase of $17,000. And personnel costs, that's not the firefighters, that'll be the 3 chief officers and staff at the CDRD. Operational expenses is $545,493, which is an increase of $47,429. Recoveries from other functions. Currently, Oyster Fire Department is overseeing and running Merville and Mount Washington fire departments, and they contribute to our operational costs, and their capital costs are totally, they run their own capital costs. Function 237, which is Merville, is putting $191,000 plus into our operational budget, and function 240, which is Mount Washington, is putting over $51,000 in. And contribution to reserves this year of $165,000, which is an increase of $50,000. With that, I open it up for any questions.
Thank you very much, Chief. Any questions, Director Rice? Well, I think we all fully realize what a bargain we get with our volunteer fire services. It's what is your model? Something like a staff professionally by volunteers? I mean, that's precisely what it is. These guys are pros, guys and gals are pros. And as you say, I mean, they're doing it out of their concern for the community, from the heart, not from the pocketbook. So, I mean, I think they deserve a great big, a big amount of credit for what hours they put in. I know a couple of people that have been firefighters, and it's not something you take lightly. It's a lot of work to get there. And certainly, we appreciate the fact that we have fully trained people arrive at our door, not just for fires, but also for medical emergencies, first responders. I think that one of the things maybe, Chief, you could elaborate on, and again, people aren't aware of the fact that you have the accredited shuttle service in the Oyster River, and that basically brings down most people's insurance premiums, although it's not a given. It depends on your insurance provider, but it basically is. It looks like you're like within a block from a fire hydrant if you can get the tanker to fill up those pools and whatever. But maybe you could elaborate just a little more for the viewing public.
So yes, currently we do have a tanker accreditation with Fire Underwriter Survey. And what that means, if you live within 8 kilometers of the fire hall and within 5 kilometers of a certified fire hydrant, we have proven that we can deliver over 200 gallons of water per minute for 2 hours. And that allows anybody within that radius to get a 3B rating, which depending on where you live has substantially reduced the insurance costs. I've heard of some people from $50 to $700 for us for being able to provide that service.
Very good to know. So any other questions, comments? We'll call it on receipt then. All in favor of receipt? That carries. And there's a recommendation attached as well, if we can move that. Moved by Director Rice.
Move recommendation, thank you.
And I'll second it. Seeing no lights, we'll call a question on the recommendation. All in favor? That carries. And we have no new business, but we do have a recommendation that we adjourn to in camera. Under 901E and 901K, if I can get a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Okay. And on the adjourned in camera, all in favor?